Manhood, brought to you in part by Reboot Sports Drink.
Welcome to Manhood. My name is Johanse Ayodike. I am a behavior change specialist. To my left, we have Robert Dumas, who doesn't want to define himself. On my right, we have Teddy, Teddyson, John, St. Lucian, creative artist. And to my further right, we have Niall McNish, who says he don't want to be defined either.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
So this is Manhood. We are a few men talking to all men, but we're not talking on behalf of all men because each man has his own individual thoughts. So we hear, we raw, we uncut, and today we're talking about spirituality. Now, to me, spirituality have no real definition. When you're talking about spirituality, it's a fluid thing. Now, I know sometimes, Robert, you have some definitions, so you
Yes,
can read
and
those definitions for them.
I will present that. Yes.
So actually, let me start with the definition and then we could start to break it apart.
So first of all, Johan, say thank you for that really great introduction. And I would say, as Jay-Z once said, I'm not a businessman, I'm a businessman. So when you say a definition, the name itself, Robert Dumas to me, in my presence, it's simply that is my definition. I am who I am. Yeah, I'm nothing more, I'm nothing less.
Read the definition.
Let's move on to the definition of what spirituality has had upon the glasses there, right? So, spirituality, what is spirituality for men? Spirituality refers to a belief that life has a higher purpose beyond the daily struggles to survive. Spiritual men live in a world endowed by a spirits, or a soul. Men who honor the numerous sides of their personalities commit themselves to moral principles embedded in their spiritual beliefs. I want to say they also present that there are three types of spirituality. There are three basic types of spiritualities: spiritual individualism, spiritual collectivism, and spiritual dialogue. Individualist spiritually is centered on the within. Collectivist spirituality is centered on the institutions of religion. So if you didn't know, now you know.
Yeah.
And before we get into it, I just want to say that this is a really, really interesting topic today because spirituality and beliefs drive a lot of how we end up behaving in certain circumstances.
True.
And I know Teddyson is very grounded spiritually, and so too are you. Yeah. And I know that in this particular episode, Niall and I are going to be the ones that are going to sort of, rock the boat, so to speak.
Listen. It's spirituality we're dealing with, not religion, Don't judge yourself.
Correct.
Right.
Sure. But spirituality and religion, so you don't have to have religion in what you believe in and what you follow, but the spirituality is still some sort of belief in something.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So how you present that, I think it's semantics when people, try to define one against the other.
Actually, I disagree in terms of spirituality and religion being semantic because for me, spirituality has a certain feeling that comes with it. Religion is more ritualistic. Yeah. So you go, I just give an example. You kneel down, you pray at 7 a.m. every morning, and you do it every morning. Now, I'm not saying it wouldn't have feeling in it, but sometimes it may not, right? Because it's just a routine, something you're just going through. Yeah. Versus spirituality, you may feel at 6 a.m. to speak to God instead. You may feel to go and walk on the beach instead of kneeling down. So it's something more of a feeling than just, could be sometimes a mindless ritual.
For me, an example, like I was probably raised, heavy in church, so we talk in church every day of the week. They must have something, I was telling my mother, I think I am closer now to the Creator than I was raised underneath the whole system or the gathering or the congregation. I think spirituality is a one-on-one, that one-on-one individual connect with the Creator, whoever He is to you.
I agree.
What people have different. I am not in any position to say, okay, who's the religion kind of separates that and makes you feel, okay, you have a Baptist, you have a Pentecostal, you have all sorts of different religions, and they kind of like fight up within themselves to figure out who's right. But I don't want to be a part of that. That's probably how I was raised.
Yeah.
But that individual one-on-one connect, just like you said, you may choose not to get on your knees or spend hours, but like for me, it's a daily thing. I have conversations every day. I'll be driving in my vehicle, and hey, Father, I going into this meeting there, you know what to do. Like you have that. I want to be able to talk to the Creator the way I want to, and not the way that it was taught.
Gotcha.
Or society or the religious people basically taught you how to, how to do.
So basically, is it that you can be religious but not spiritual?
Correct.
Yeah.
And now that I'm happy that we're having this conversation, because now I seen that there's a separation between the two. Because I believe in it all. That's my defining or term for the Creator. But I was not very religious person, right? You couldn't get me to go into the church every Sunday, right? And I never understood why it had people who they take their religion so seriously, but they lose focus of why you're coming to why you're congregating, why you're doing all these protocols. And they kind of lose they lose the point of why they're doing it.
My thing is that religious people, for me, have the most skeletons, and that's my examples. You can quote a Bible verse you can quote the first chapter to the last chapter, and you are living, and the way you are inside, where your heart is concerned, is a totally different, kind of thing. You can't really even you can't really relate to the common person, because sometimes spirituality will allow you to get off that religious horse and go down and talk
And be
to
with the
that
peop-
and
be
be
on
with the
the- be
people
on the level.
and talk level with them, compared to if you have that religious thing and you think like, okay, if that person not that way, they not this or they not that.
My wife just call it religious ego.
Yeah. Been there, done that. I had that growing up in church. And you just get to a point where,
Where you thought that in other words, I'm going to be saved and you are not. So
I had people.
separation.
I had people look at me and tell me, if there's something called speaking in tongues and all that kind of stuff, if you're not doing this or you're not doing that, and you don't even want to know the stories behind them. So for me, my mother always taught me, Daddy, keep your eye up there, have that one-on-one, and deal with the Creator the way you want to. Don't look at man because man would fail. Everybody, they had it in the Bible. The best of the best,
Correct.
had failures. So who are we to act like we so super spiritual and super religious and that kind of vibe,
So really, really rich conversation. And there's always that saying, Niall, and it's in the Bible, judge not lest you be judged.
Yeah.
So, but I want to, I'm sure our viewers and listeners are probably asking themselves, this is all great conversation, good context, based on the subject that Johan say you introduced. But what does that have to do, and as in the question I'm sure people are thinking, what does that have to do with man and behaviors?
Gotcha.
And the reason we want to have that conversation around spirituality is how does that, your spiritual grounding or lack of spiritual grounding in whatever you believe, only, I say to people all the time, only when we close our eyes and that day comes will we know who was right and who was wrong. And at that point, it is what it is.
Sure.
But as we walk the earth, our spiritual grounding or lack thereof, or religion and all these beliefs that lead to so many other things in terms of how we treat women, for example, how we view others, like do we view others as an infidel? How do we others as pagans, and all of these different terms that keep coming out? All that is some form of judgment based on what we believe is right.
Okay.
And I'm saying that more importantly, how does that impact our behavior, not just based on being religiously bound, but also spiritually or lack thereof, how does that impact our behaviors to do the things that we do?
I'll tie what you're saying into something you said, Niall. You said sometimes religious people, they end up losing focus on what it is they're supposed to. Now, that's interesting because you don't know what their focus was, right? We assume because somebody in a church that they focus on something, but their reason for being in the church could be totally different from what you think it is or what we think it's supposed to be, right? So I'm going first on a wide scale, that person's purpose, because I'll give you somebody purpose could be the lonely and they're looking for company, you know, right?
Okay.
So that's from a wide perspective. So now we're tying it back with what you're saying in terms of men. Why? What is the difference between, we can even say male, female spirituality, or what it means for a man, right? So I'll start with no looked up definition. For me, a man supposed to know himself, right? God, if we're going by biblical, God put Adam on the earth first, and he put Adam in charge as a manager, right, to manage things. But to do that, he had to have that connection and that relationship with God, even before Eve come into play. So
If that's what you believe.
right.
in
So
Adam
if you're going biblical, right? And as a man, I believe that us having that relationship with God first, before you have a woman, before you have children, etc. Now again, not a religious practice, but that connection with God. Because for me personally, sometimes as a man, I don't know what to do. Sometimes I don't know what to do in a situation. Now I could analyze, I could Google, I could read a book, but sometimes it goes beyond that. It goes beyond. So as you're saying, Teddy, it just asks God like what to do, boy, what it is really to do. And I think that's important for a man to have that direction.
Interesting. Here's what I realize, right? When you really break down spirituality, especially as a man, the reality is spirituality to me seems like it's hope that is given to manhood, to men, or humans in general, right? Because without hope, society in general will just break down and degrade. Tomorrow, man, if I have no hope for tomorrow, I will do anything I want today. It will be utter chaos. That's what I believe, right? So I think that religions began because you needed a way to give people hope in whatever vein that they so choose was, the best way of describing or representing the all to them. So without some sort of guided meditation, which is what I call religion, is guided meditation towards hope, society in total will come to, and this is just to apply it to men, because men being the dominating ones I know some women wouldn't like to hear that, but the reality
You
is,
just always throw yourself in that hot
I
water,
mean,
but that's okay. That's what
if
we're
the
about.
bus is called reality, then I'll throw myself under it, right? So, but men being the most dominating species on the planet, being that if we fail to adhere to rules, nobody is safe in the world, right? So, without religion, without spirituality, they would have utter chaos. And going back to what I said earlier, where religions has been started and they're starting to veer off of what the path of spirituality is, and that's where that's how I feel that is applied to men in particular, because without a strong spiritual grounding or hope for a man, it'll be problems, especially in the household, especially in the friends around them.
Yeah.
So that's my...
I just wanted to interject to say two things. One, that, we start off saying that we are not speaking on behalf of all men. We are few men talking to all men. Where Niall mentions that men are the dominant species, I'll leave him on his own with that one, right?
Wait, I don't understand.
And secondly, I always hear that hope is the absence of faith and worry is the absence of prayer, right? So when you bring the two together, I'm just saying it's almost it's not connected, because one, you can't have faith if you're still in hope, right? You have to believe. You believe that you say up to whatever you believe in, whether it's a universe, a higher purpose, God, Jesus, Yahweh,
whoever that
whatever
person
that
to
is.
you, yeah.
That faith is that you asking, the same way, Teddy, you mentioned that before you go into something, you say, Father, you know that, listen, I want your words to be my words. You go before me and be present and touch that person's heart or touch that person to let thy will be done. And so, and the same thing with prayer, you know, it's you pray instead of worry. You know, yes, you're human at the bottom line, but I just wanted to bring that about and for us to go to a break, because once again, very, very good conversation. But I really do want to bring it back and hone in on the connection between spirituality or the absence of spirituality and our behaviors, negative and positive. We'll be back.
Hey, welcome back. Yours truly, Tennyson John from the beautiful island of St. Lucia. You know, I had to put that in there. Welcome to Manhood, and we are talking about the importance of spirituality. And while we were chilling, we were just going over some funny stories in the connections, and I was just letting you guys know, for me, where it started with me. The change of mindset from religious to spirituality. I would say I probably lived with the whole religious thing for a while. And so that's like me going into the soca music from, you know, don't say backsliding, but I think I did it. Now I'll check it. My mother watching this. Hello. Hey, don't they love you? Yeah, well, we here. You see me on TV? All right. I used to, there's a lot that I wanted to do, and if I had to come into, you know, into the industry, I wanted to come different in terms of what I wanted to give and the message. I wanted to give a message. People always thought that, like, you can't really take the church out of the person, because, I mean, sometimes, you know, like, you hear that phrase, like, you train up somebody in the way, train up a child in the way that they should go, and then certain things not gonna be part, you know,
We'll leave them.
we'll leave them. So that grounding for me was always there. It changed when I started to just observe, you know, all the different situations around me, and it's like, nah, the truth is that no man is perfect. You know, like, no matter, we here talking today, and everybody have a different, you know, a different viewpoint and perspective. And it's your personal perspective based on what you went through and what you've been through.
Correct.
So who's to say it's wrong? No, it can be right based on what you went through.
Yeah.
You know?
Correct. Your upbringing, your societal influences.
Yeah.
All of these different things have an impact. Relationships.
Yes.
But Teddy, what I want to know is how, when you think of the two, you know, the correlation between spirituality or lack of spirituality in your life and how you behave, your moral fabric.
Yeah.
How has that impacted you? Or would you say that you are guided by that in how you treat women, how you treat people?
I am guided by that a lot, and it just happens naturally, because that's how, you know, certain aspects of growing up in a family, the morals that it was given to you as a child, your father instilled in you. Like my dad taught us to really protect and take care of, you know. My mom was a stay at home, you know. My dad taught us to actually go out there and provide and okay, whatever you know how to do, take that, run with it, you know, and use that to take care of. You understand? So that always really stayed, you know, with me. Me being the person that I am, I'm a humble soul. People find it like Teddy is just like, I don't change. The truth is that I want to treat people the way that I would like to be treated. It's just simple. So for me, the upbringing and what I was taught growing up by, my dad, that's what, it just happens.
Yeah.
It just naturally happens. Again, when you train up a child in the way that they should go, these things kind of stays.
Would you say that your spirituality is what assisted or led to your humility?
That, yes, it did. But that one-on-one thing was what really started to change my mind. There's some books and stuff that I started to read, go into, the powers of positive thinking, the laws of attraction.
Read that
You
too.
know,
So
yeah,
so probably
yeah, it
people-
is really, these things really, really, went to my mind. Like, I really got into that and started to see things a different way. Hence, I started to even appreciate the universal way of thinking more. And it's just, that just started to change, and I found myself, my whole conversation was changing right before, like, I wouldn't, I don't know, like, it just started to change. As the universe for certain things, I wanted to be around a different circle, because you can't be around the same people if you want to,
When your mind changes.
when your mind changing, and that's just what happened. I started to different like-minded people, to have conversations of substance like we have in here
Yeah.
today. This wouldn't be my typical, forum before,
Yeah.
but I can appreciate that, just because of certain things that I started to
Be
see and
like-minded.
change. Yeah,
So I really, as you mentioned about your circle
yeah,
and being like-minded, you are a spiritual person.
yeah,
And that spirituality has led you to be a person that's liked,
yeah.
a humble person,
Love.
a successful person, a loved person.
Appreciate it.
And that's, again, that's because you're spiritually grounded.
Yeah.
I want us to talk a lot about where we make that connection. So for me, I always had an issue with, when you watch a lot of these, say, mafia type films, and people behave a certain way, do certain things, even killings, etc. And then, it's based on either they truly believe that, based on religion, that it's okay, or just in these shows, and I know it's movies, but there's reality to it, that those behaviors are somewhat justified. And, you say two Hail Mary or two whatever, and, somehow everything is cool and okay after that. And I'm wondering, when we see some of these killings, even in Trinidad and Tobago, or some of these acts, these heinous acts that we see, and it upsets us to our core, and we ask what is happening with Sweet T&T, we turn around and ask, do these people have a soul? Are they spiritually grounded? And is that a carte blanche, a blanket statement to say no, or is it that you can be both? And that's what I'm saying. What is the correlation, which is what I want us to talk about here today? What is the correlation between spirituality, religion, and our behaviors? And in this case, we're here having this show initially set up because we're not happy with our behaviors.
Robert, you enter in some very interesting waters, because seeing that everyone different, right? God create each one of us differently, and human behavior is thought into feeling into action. And then we come back, how we develop is based on how we grew up, and everybody grew up differently. Now, it's very possible that our idea, not religion first, because religion, there are different sects of religion that we could define. But if we go in spirituality, then spirituality coming as an individual thing from 8 billion individuals, right? So I'm promising that first. And then I'll come and I'll give a quick story. Some years ago, I had a client years ago who admitted he was a contract killer. And he wanted he was repentant, quote unquote, right? He stopped the life, and he wanted to live a family life, etc. And he said that he used to pray before he killed the person. He used to pray for their soul.
For
Right?
their soul.
For their soul.
For their soul.
Yes.
Right? As he is assisting the transition.
Right.
right?
Okay.
And it was always an interesting thing to me because he believed this, right? And I usually what he came to repent is not really repent. He wanted to help adjusting to a new life because he wanted a family life, etc. And he didn't regret anything that he did. And he said that this was part of his belief system, and his belief system was changing. Right? So I using that because we wondering if people don't have any soul. And to be honest, it's very hard to judge who have a
We're not
soul.
trying to judge.
Right.
There's no judgment. It's a question. We're in a forum. It's not necessarily my opinion. We're discussing it for our viewers and listeners out there who are,
Right.
Everyone has their difference in upbringing to see that is a question that comes up when people go, hey, have you no conscience? And we're trying to determine here by a conversation, is there that connection? Is there that correlation?
I think there is,
Because
there's still a
just
spirit
based
there.
on your point there, where you said on a pod, because I want you to continue your point, but just to say with that killer, a lot of times when you hear again movies, I like movies, that they believe that they are getting rid of a bad man. So that's always justified. It's like I'm not killing the innocent, I'm killing people who are vermin. That's sometimes what you see again in the movies.
Well, this guy didn't necessarily say he was killing women. He just, he was given contracts, etc. Now, each man have their own, and what I'm realizing is their own spirituality. And even in, I'll use the Bible, we could even use the Gita and some of the Hindu philosophy and religion. There's always a villain also. So we have the quote-unquote hero and the quote-unquote villain, and everybody have a part to play. My wife and I often discuss if that was Judas' part, right? If Judas was supposed to do what he's supposed to do, and him being quote-unquote the villain, right? That's his spiritual part. If it wasn't necessarily the devil or I mean, the Bible spoke about that, but I just putting it out there that everybody have their part. And I'm not saying we judging, but sometimes we judge, and a religious will judge who good and who bad versus
Indirectly,
everybody have a part to play.
Yeah.
And every man, so we're going back men now, I think every man have to find his path and be able to embrace his path. And that is his path, not path now, P-A-T-H, but this is P-A-R-T, his path, right, is
Path and
to play his part. And that's how we have this whole cousin, because everybody, quote unquote, as given the example, was good, right? Whatever good mean, then we would lose, I think we would lose a certain element of what spirituality is. Understanding different aspects of people, understanding, let's call it light and darkness, understanding different things. So my main positive is that every man have a part to play, and through spirituality, you will find that part.
So we need to get down
do
to
you-
brass tacks, Teddy. And I want to present what I say in brass tacks. And this is where I want us to dig deep and reveal. We're here to talk real talk, right? And it's coming down to, we have an understanding. We start off with what is spirituality and religion, our understanding of it. Then even maybe some examples of where that may impact men on a general basis. But let's get down to where it really has, by example, my spirituality or religion may impact how, and this is a discussion we've had on several episodes, my outlook on marriage or relationships or being polygamous or polyamorous or monogamous. And we have, this is why I started off by saying that Teddy and yourself, Johanse, may have different viewpoints on right and wrong and behaviors, and I might be just a bit,
all right.
just a bit, just a bit freer in thought, or expression. Not necessarily we truly believe that, but in terms of we don't have issue with having the conversation about it. And that's what I want us to talk about. How, to make it easier, let's talk individually how we see things based on how our spiritual connection and our outlook, to really get an understanding of, I know we need to take a break, but I want us to start presencing it so that the person's listening or viewing go, nah, boy, I just stay and listen to how these fellas gonna wrap this thing up, We don't want to go for coffee or anything and decide, nah, I'm watching something else. I want you to listen to this.
All right. I got you. Seeing that you all are supposedly the freer thinkers.
I mean, on the show, you have yin and yang, you have the alpha and omega, you have balance. And if one person is doing saying this, we have an audience that is, everyone.
I mean, sex and thing have a spiritual aspect of it, so
no,
we going to the break.
No, we understanding.
We will come back and discuss some of the let's say the
nuances.
The nuances of spirituality.
Long time you're trying this rigid thing. We start off with segment 1, segment 2.
We wasn't rigid. We were setting our premise and we were describing our own aspects of individual.
Yeah,
you tell us in the comments if you want to hear that. It's important to hear, but you want to hear this next segment. You want to hear this next part. We have to take a break.
Welcome back, nation. I am Niall, and this is Manhood, and the story has been spicy. We're talking about spirituality, and let's get right back into it, right? So just now, a comment was made about the behaviors of men, especially when it applies to the Bible, right? Another comment was made, right, saying that men, what was the comment?
Men designed to have more than one woman.
By nature. However, and the Bible supports that, not so?
Well, it's in the Bible. The stories you see Solomon in the Bible had 300 and something concubine,
right,
and 400 and something wives. I think so. I have the numbers mixed up. Yeah, but I'm just saying, all these things stem from there, and people probably use that to govern what they feel now and how they.
Well, all right. So then let's fast forward today in today's society where we have now been bound, is a word I would use, by the tradition. Well, not tradition, but by the sense of one woman, one man, right? Does that apply to? Is that a spiritual practice? Is it that we are moving away from what we're designed to do, spiritually speaking?
I don't know. I just find that the seat all of a sudden got really hot. And I don't know if, I want,
maybe your seat hot, right? What I would say is that, and I'll give my personal. I grew up religious also, and that was very restrictive for me, right? And maybe close to, I think, 16, 17, when I started having more leadership positions in church, and I started making decisions, I started realizing the restrictiveness of it, and that started to turn me off. Now I bring it back because that is in connection with sex, is in connection with how we treat women, how we treat people. I'll give you an example. I remember I was an usher in church. And as an usher, I have my own seat. I have a seat at the back so I could sit and direct things. And I remember this guy came and he wasn't the most nice looking, his clothes was a little thing, but he wanted to come in the church and he didn't have any seat. So I gave him my seat right in the back. It didn't disturb anybody. And I remember being called by the pastor after and buffing me to tell me why I brought him in the church. So in my mind, I was like, not to say he was cussing, not to say, if nobody didn't see him, they would not know he was there. Now, I'm bringing that up because it was restrictive for me. And when I left Trinidad to go to university, I had freedom. So that's where I found my spirituality, where I found my views on sex, my views on religion in itself, because I did try different things. I was telling you all before, I even tried atheism at one point. And to do all of those things where I found myself, because I said, God, should I pray every day? Should I should just tell me what I'm supposed to do? And I realized it was a way more fluid thing. Now, adding back to whether men, by nature, if we supposed to have many wives or not. If a man grew up in a restrictive environment, after a while he will just want to let loose. Versus if you grew up in an environment where you are allowed to express yourself. So even saying that's how we are by nature, a lot of times we don't even know that, because we grew up, most of us, I don't know everybody, most of us grew up in a restrictive nature. So after a while, you will just want to let loose. Yeah. And then I'll add with the Bible. Now, I don't know every single story in the Bible, but the stories where those men had more than one woman, most times it led to their downfall. Because that was Solomon's downfall, it was David's downfall, it was Samson's downfall, having more than one woman and lusting after something and being in a restrictive environment. So that's my little piece. Us as men, a lot of times you grew up in a restrictive environment, and you know how that will be, whether it is religious or not. And then after a while, and that's why most men have a midlife crisis, because you grow up in these defined and confined things, and then after a while, we just can't take it. Anybody jump in?
I could jump in now, because I really like the fact that you say that you practice atheism for a little while, and I felt like I went through a phase like that as well, because I grew up in the church, and just like, as you say, you grew up in a real restrictive way, you're going to have an overstay. You want to just do everything opposite to what, because it was so, for me, I didn't like it. So I had a phase of atheism where I just didn't believe in anything, but that had me treating people a certain way, because when you do believe in something greater than yourself, you treat people it was a bad. So I was almost like a baby sociopath, right?
Well, I don't know if that atheism, that could be something else,
If God was something greater, it means that you think that you are top of the pyramid. And as a result, you could also then start to treat people less than, or you have a lesser view of yourself.
Correct.
And if you don't have that love, that self-love, then how can you give something that you don't have?
Well, I'm not advocating for atheism here, but from what you're saying, that means you don't understand what atheism is.
No. I understand what atheism.
No, well, I know.
There's agnostic, and there's being an atheist and there's agnostic. One is not a belief in God, but you believe in something, right? The other is not believing in anything at all.
Right.
Right? In Niall's case, he went through a period of not believing in, say, maybe religion or a certain, maybe apathetic. It was probably because of a certain situation in his life that made him result in, okay, well, if God is real, how am I now going through this? Or why would God do this to me, right? So it is not, so I believe he could have gone through what was to him a period of atheism, or even to a certain extent being agnostic. But again, having a period, it makes me ask the question, as it just popped to me, is there also another category, is there another term that any of the three of you may know, where you believe in God, but you have a period in your life that you don't believe in religion?
Well, I think that's what spirituality is. You don't believe in religion. And
is it that? So I can either be religious or spiritual.
Yeah, I think.
I don't know if it's an either or, because I think it could be spiritual and religious.
Well, this is what I'm saying.
But it could be religious but not spiritual. Or it could be spiritual and not religious. So you could be both. You could be one or the other.
Right.
And
so you can't be. So in other words, when you said that, if I'm without religion, without belief in religion at that period, I'm spiritual, but it's almost like we contradicting the statement and all that. So you can be. What is the term, which is not spiritual? What is the term when I am not in belief of my religion for a period? it is not necessarily spiritual, because that could be both.
That's when
My-
they're searching, that's when they find. That's basically what I was going through. I think there's no.
If you're
term for it.
searching, that is spiritual too, because okay, this is my belief.
If you're searching, it's spiritual.
Everybody's spiritual. Everybody have a spirit. So whether you believe it or not, no, I mean, I could take the arguments with this, right? All of us have a spirit. Everything to me is spiritual, and I didn't believe this for a long time, right? But there's a spiritual aspect, and if we're using the word spiritual, something that is above us. Because even the atheist community that I connected with then, they believed in love, right? They believed in peace.
They believe in
Right?
something.
They didn't believe, they had no God or no Bible or no
They believe in
Quran or
God.
anything like that.
No,
right?
know the Big Bang Theory.
But they believed in love. If you understand what I'm saying, they believed in peace and treating people well and etc., which I think is an ideal above self. Because if I choosing to treat you as my brother, it could mean at times I compromising something, I sacrificing, I giving. So I think that even though you would get rid of religion, let's say you don't believe in religion or even believe in spirituality, a lot of times most people are good at their core. So even though they have no spiritual or religious beliefs, they may believe in love, they may believe in helping somebody, they may believe in making people smile, they may believe
So you
in
believe
something
there's
like
no bad? You believe in what people say, where they say there's no bad people, there's just bad choices.
Yeah, I don't believe anybody innately bad.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
As in, it wasn't born bad.
Yes.
You weren't born bad, but you can believe now that the people now are not. When you see someone's rotten to the core, or their soul has left their body, or they're without conscience.
I try to think of, and that's me with a different mindset, because some of us, sometimes we still have that indirect judgmental position. I try to think of the why, like, the why. Okay, that person did something, that person made a decision, that person, like, what is the deep rooted reason? Why?
Huh?
I think if we understand the why, then we'd probably understand the reason behind the why. I understand what I'm saying, making sense.
You're making perfect sense.
Yeah, I just learned to look at that. Sometimes we may not even understand the why, but there's a deeper seated issue. There's a deeper reasoning that allows somebody to think what they're thinking is the right
Gotcha.
thing to do. It's just
Gotcha.
crazy.
Well, just to go on that thought is that I think you had to understand the why for yourself before you even understand the why in others, right? So I need to have a control or a grasp as why did I get so angry when, my girl leave the dishes in the sink?
What triggers
I get triggered because of that, right? And only me understanding that, I could now understand when she gets upset for in my opinion, for no reason.
Yeah.
But I know saying, because you went through certain things in your past, and I am now displaying a pattern that is triggering to you too. And so I like the fact that you said that. And I guess that why is what really boils down to the behavior of everybody.
Everybody.
And the surface tension of that is spirituality. That kind of keeps everything together.
And just to, based on what you said there, Niall, this is a conversation again. We in every episode we talk about one thing with manhood, Teddy, is that it's going to live on.
Yeah.
It's a conversation will always have to happen, whether that's fortunate or unfortunate, because we are humans, and these conversations are never going to, the topics are never going to be fully understood or resolved. And one of the things, within that, as you mentioned, Niall, not understanding in that surface tension, there's also, spiritual bind. Like when you bind yourself to someone, so there's energies. There's a feel, whether you believe in the universe or you believe in some sort of religion. So when you sleep with multiple partners, that as we mentioned, you spoke about spirit, that everybody has a spirit. So whether that's a powerful spirit, that's a spirit within your belief, or another spirit, when that becomes interlocked and you break that field, and now you have the field of their fields, all the other fields that they've had, and you start to go down that road, it's going to disrupt.
It will.
your field.
Understood.
And as a result, going forward, you have to reach to the point that you have to know what's the terminology they use, break the chains or pray in your belief to break that so it's more in alignment, or it is in total alignment with your direction, whichever that is. And that's when, and that in itself also causes disruption in you stating to yourself, I'm going to church, or I believe in this, whatever that is, and I want to know why is it I'm not able just to go down the straight and narrow. And it's because of all these other disruptors, all these other kinks, all these other stones, all these other potholes that you've brought within your sphere. If, as you also mentioned, Teddy, your circles are the circles to take you down the path that you want to go. Because I could say I will be a good person, but I still lime in certain areas because I like the feeling, I like the vice. But it not taking me down the right road. And those are the things that also impact our behaviors, known or unbeknown stuff.
Well, you don't say something there, Robert. Remember before, the talk was, we not, as men, not designed to have one wife. We designed to have multiple women, right?
It's an opinion, yeah.
Well, it's an opinion, right? But we, the statement was, again, now just made where, and I agree with, where skin to skin is actually a spiritual act that you're making. So technically, man as the evolved ape that we are, that we are, it makes sense that we'd want to be with multiple women. However,
I held back there.
I did. However, as a more mature spiritual man, I understand now that being with one person is really healthier for me as a male, as a man, right? And which I want to just bring back to the story that I started with me finding atheism because I was oversteering from my religious beginning, right? Just to quickly summarize it. So here I was, an atheist, treating people in a scientific way. Because I was like, I am science, right? Humans, we are not special. We are just like ants. You are nobody to me. We are just two people sharing a space, right? So that's how I was treating people, right? And
You're deep.
And then one day, I went on a journey through the assistance of cannabis, right? Where, I took an extra dose, a higher dose than I normally would have. And in that moment, something just clicked. I don't know how to define it, but I heard myself speak to me, and I'm assuming that was the creator or the all. And I was wearing a fake gold watch and a fake gold chain on my hand, and I looked down on myself and I said, why am I wearing these things? It is to impress other people that, I am doing all of this to impress other people. I'm showing this fake wealth, right? So I bust up the watch and I bust up the chain and I throw it away. Well, I say all of that to say is that at that moment when I found this, for me, I was 33 at the time, by the way, that's the age that Jesus Christ died. I say all of that to say that when I found spirituality that day, it came to me all of a sudden in a bang, and that changed my whole outlook of how I treat people, especially women and everybody else, and especially myself. So when you say that, we're supposed to be, it spiritually, we should be with just one person at a time, I actually agree with it. Believe it or not. And
This is our moment. This is our moment. I think we need to pause. We need to pause here.
We need a round of applause.
We need a round of applause, right? This is our moment. So now, with that, I want you to use this as a follow through.
Okay.
To give your closing.
Closing statements. Spirituality is a journey that can only be found. You can have assistance, but it is a journey that one must usually walk alone. However, it could always be guided, hence where religion comes in. To me, religion is guided meditation towards your spirituality.
Teddy, take it away.
I would encourage everybody to have that one-on-one, have that personal connect. whoever the creator is to you, whoever that higher being is to you, do it the way you want to do it, and not the way anybody tells you to do it. Do it the way that you feel comfortable. You understand? Most importantly, just do it how you feel like, and everything else is a domino effect from there. Everything else is just gonna follow through with what needs to happen. I'm living proof that these things, happen just because of where I was compared to what I'm doing now and the way that I'm thinking now. So it really really works. It really works.
It does.
Amen.
Amen.
I wanted to say that too. It felt like that moment to say it.
Men, I think it's important that we know ourselves and we find ourselves, whether it is through the framework of religion or the fluidity of spirituality or a combination of both. But it's important for you to define yourself and not let people define you. Amen.
Amen. I might have to be a bit more long-winded.
As usual.
Judgment. So I would say that this once again has been a really powerful conversation, and in judgment, even in interviewing, as I tell people, sometimes you go in with 2 questions to open, and you always find these nuggets in a conversation. And in this one, I'm leaving more open-minded about a lot of discussions. I really want to thank you, gentlemen, once again for always changing that for me. Because each time I think, okay, I have this covered, and then I come in here and I leave with that that thought. So I might not always change the way entirely I think, but I certainly have something to go away and further think about, and for us to have a discussion. And I want to also say that a friend of mine once said, I love women, right? And I would say it is a struggle. You have to be open and admit it. We like women. We had a discussion at one point on our culture and how women dress, and so and Trinidad and Tobago, has the most beautiful women in the world. Sorry, Teddy. But Trinidad and Tobago, we have truth, right? True. And so with that, but what I would say is, you only fail when you stop trying.
That is true.
And monogamy has many positive things to it. And my friend once told me, she said, that person is a witness to your life. And when you look at it like that, you can have 1,000 women, and those are just fleeting moments, and you can't go back to any one of those women and talk about the other moment, or the other thing that you saw, or the other thing that you experienced, whether it be the good moment, the bad moment, that helps shape who you are. Because you're not the same person you were yesterday. You can't be. We a minute ago is lost. We'll never get that back. And so that witness to your life is what is important in having that particular relationship. And I want to say, with regard to spirituality and men and boys and people listening, you always have a choice. You simply always have a choice. And whether that spirituality is right now one that is somewhat negative, you have the choice to change that and to be a better person. And if it's religion, and we still haven't defined, I still don't feel fully committed to the fact that religion and spirituality, or the absence of that, is one or the other. I think that we definitely need to talk further on that, and hear the comments. See some of the comments, listen to some of the feedback that we get as we go on, to address this again and again and again. Again, we are not speaking on behalf of all men. We're not speaking that this is the way. We are simply a few men sharing with everyone our opinions. And again, it's always just trying to be a better person with the information and the knowledge and the feeling, because we always know what's right and wrong. Always know what's right and wrong is to make that choice. So thank you once again. Thank you so much, Teddy, for being here. All the way from St. Lucia. You know, we appreciate you being here. Niall, always a pleasure. Thank you for keeping it PG. You know, we had a Niall moment here on the show. I think that in itself is a Niall nugget.
Kind of like it that nobody just saying.
A Niall nugget. And Johan say once again, always a pleasure for your insight.
Thank you.
We look forward to continuing these conversations.
Manhood, brought to you in part by Reboot Sports Drink.